Before we talk football, I want to hear from Sean Miller. Sean Miller was asked about where his team is right now. And, Jack, tell us again the two big players that are both banged up and have missed a lot of practice here. Lassina.
Yeah, Lassina Traore, who missed all of last season with, I think it was an ACL.
He's a Xavier transfer.
Yeah, but he never actually played there. But he did transfer there.
But he's a 7-footer, big guy.
Big guy.
And then Vokatitis. Matas Vokatitis. I think he's an Illinois transfer.
He is.
But he's 7 feet tall.
Yeah, so some size. But here's Sean Miller, where they open with Duke at 7:45 tonight, when asked about where they are right now coming into this season and season opener in a very tough place at Charlotte against the Blue Devils.
I'll go back to Lassina and Matas being out. I think when you get a new job, you're a new coach, new staff, these 30 practices in 42 days, they're important to everybody, but I would use the word crucial. It's crucial to us because we just have such a lack of familiarity, right? So when you have two players, especially they both play the same position, out for this extended period, that has not helped our progress offensively. And unfortunately, that's where we're at. The good news is everybody else is learning and growing. And the other part of it is I think we're going to have both guys back, and hopefully they can have a great stretch of health. But that hasn't helped what we're trying to build and what we're trying to grow.
All right, so we'll see. They're 8.5-point underdogs to a team that was in the Final Four last year. It's a whole rebuilt Duke roster, too, but that's Duke. Duke is Duke. John Shire and company.
Carlos Boozer's son is one of the top prospects.
His name? Landon?
What is it, Jack? Something? Obviously, Boozer.
Dylan Boozer.
I think it's just Cam
Boozer. He's going to be very, very good.
Cam Boozer.
He'll be in the NBA next year. But watch out for him. They always have those top prospects.
It's still incredible that Duke didn't win the championship last year with 3 top 10
Shout out to the Cougs, baby.
Flag. Yeah, Phi Slamma Jamma got him.
Couldn't figure that out.
Phi Slamma Jamma. All right, on Texas football, Arch Manning, Offensive Player of the Week in the SEC. Colin Simmons, Co-Defensive Player of the Week in the SEC for his performance against Vanderbilt.
Both.
And, one of the things about that, I wanted to bring this up because I mentioned it yesterday. And I said it earlier. I think sometimes we get caught up on this show and all the shows, and we're too, at some level, micromanaging Texas on a game-by-game basis. Heck, I now do a in-game watch-along where we criticize every
play. Yeah,
we not criticize it. We talk about every single play all the way through
Analyze
the game in real time, which I enjoy doing, but at the same time, it's always good to pull back and go big picture because as much frustration as there's been for Texas football, that performance on Saturday, despite the fourth quarter issues, was dominant.
It was.
And you were led by, one of the things that shouldn't be lost, and I don't think it is on most of you, with Arch Manning and Colin Simmons, those were both the number one player in the country when they came in. Right? That's the type of recruits you're getting.
Yep.
Like Arch Manning was the number one player in the country, number one quarterback. Colin Simmons was the number one defensive player in the country.
Yep. And
you won that recruitment. And here they are. And now they're showing up in a big top 10 matchup at your stadium, and they're helping you win huge games and leading the way.
Against top 10 opponent.
Yeah, that's massive, okay? And that's why I said yesterday, but I'll repeat for folks who missed it. Go back, first 2 years were rebuild, right? 5-7 and then 8-win team. But in the last 3 years, Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns are now 30, after Saturday's win, they're 32-7. They've beaten 5 top 10 teams. They're 22-3 in conference games, whether it's SEC or Big 12, right? So they're building this thing into a power. Now, and as I've said, that's why when I came in here the Monday after the Florida loss, and I was like, well, what was that? Because that's out of the 7 losses, that's the one that wasn't like the others.
Right. Sticks out like a sore thumb.
They're losses, but of the 7 losses in the last 3 seasons, 2 are to Georgia, 2 are to Ohio State, 1 to the national championship winning Ohio State, and then the team that's still number 1.
Right.
1 was to Washington, who played for the national championship that year and lost to Michigan. And another to Oklahoma. That was Dylan Gabriel's led. That's the best Brett Venables Oklahoma team that he's had.
Yes.
Maybe till this year, but I think it might have even been better. So those are your 6 losses minus that weird Florida game, which that's why that game was so weird to me. And so I think credit where credit is due. And so 32-7. And then I said this last hour, and somebody said, well, you're saying they can't win the big game. Fair enough. And that's the next step. But that's where I think guys like Arch Manning and Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill, that's where these top recruits, as they grow in and mature and become, Ryan Wingo is a 5-star wide receiver. They were impactful in a top 10 game. Your best players have to make plays in big games to win those. And Sark and this staff are recruiting and winning battles for the best players in the country. And when they go to play Georgia in a week from Saturday, that's a demon they'd like to slay to win one of those big games. And this year, Texas actually has the better roster than Georgia does.
Agreed.
They have the far and away the better defense.
No doubt.
And we can debate the quarterbacks. Depends on which Arch
Right.
Manning's going to show up.
Sure.
But Texas has a more talented team than Georgia, and Georgia's shown that they're a bit susceptible. But I will point this out in what I'm trying to say about Georgia. If I told you that in year 5 for Kirby Smart at Georgia, go back to Georgia. Kirby Smart was hired at Georgia in 2016.
Yeah.
Okay? Went 8-5 in his first year, had a good 2017, but really it all began in 2018. And from 2018 through the COVID year of 2020, exact same amount of games because COVID was only a 10-game season, Kirby Smart from 2018, 19, and 20 at Georgia, 31-7. Sark, 32-7.
Yeah.
And the losses each year at Georgia were to really good teams, like Alabama. Sometimes they would lose Alabama twice
Right.
if they played them in the regular year and then the SEC title game. So, again, 2018, 19, 20, Georgia, 31-7 under Kirby Smart. Sark, last 3 years, 32-7. Very similar teams, and obviously we know what that led to. 2021 and 2022, they went 29-1, won 2 national championships, and were the dominant force of college football. They were 13-1 a year ago. The question is that where Sark's taking it? And I would argue, if you asked me to pick one of those, that he's not going to win the big games and it's going to be James Franklin and it's going to whatever, I would pick the other, that it's going to be more like Kirby Smart's team because he's building this thing the same way Kirby did.
Yeah.
Stacking top recruiting classes. Now you have the portal because Kirby didn't even have that really to its core, to its where it is now back in 2021, but some. Now the portal is an asset. And look, Sark and his team are finding ways. What has not been pretty this year, but the growing pains show me that they do have this culture that they're going to find ways to win. And then when they need to show up and beat a top 6 Oklahoma team or beat a top 10 Vanderbilt team or play with Ohio State, they can. And what those growing pains are maturing. I just wanted to point out that Kirby Smart for that 3-year stretch before they took over college football, identical to Steve Sarkisian.
Well, I think that the teams that you pointed out in this record where it's only been 7 losses, correct? We look at Florida specifically and go, why does that one stick out? Well, the defense didn't play well. We'll start off there.
They weren't
Right.
physical.
They
They
weren't
didn't
physical.
compete. They came out and kind of rolled over, that's why that game was like, whoa, something's really wrong at Texas.
And
Because I have not seen this in 3 seasons
Yeah.
under a Steve Sarkisian coach team because the losses have all been to really good teams.
For sure. And I think they have a lot of talent on that team and obviously disgruntled fans in that moment. But that is one of the tougher places to play in football. And I think they were getting a taste of it because everywhere you just listed, OU, that loss, right? You're still getting 50% of your fans. Ohio State, obviously, we know what that was. It was one of the tougher places to play. But all those games, a lot of them were home. And I think those road environments we're seeing in the SEC, whether it's Kroger Field in Lexington, the Cowbells in Starkville, it's tough to play any Saturday, and especially on the road in the SEC. So that's why this game against Georgia, although it's a lesser Georgia opponent.
This is a dragon you got to slay.
This is the big game,
It's the
right?
first time. Well, it's the first time they've played with Sark and Kirby head to head, where Sark has the better overall roster.
Yeah.
Sark has the better defense.
Right.
Sark may have the better quarterback if Arch Manning plays like he has in the last month, and certainly this past weekend against Vanderbilt and coming off a bye week. Obviously, Georgia could win the game. Georgia has every opportunity to win the game.
They're going to be favored probably.
But this is if you're taking that next step, Texas puts themselves in position to win this game.
Absolutely.
As ugly as it's looked this year. Real quick from Sark, though, he was asked yesterday, do we need to bye week, get fresh, get rest, but also self-scout? And I think that's an important aspect about anytime you have a week off, the week to really look at yourself. Not even just Georgia, but looking at what you do well, what you don't do well.
Like we have got to dig deep into who we are right now. We've got to dig into the things that are causing us issues in all 3 phases right now. We got to look at how people are attacking us in all 3 phases right now, and we got to be forward thinkers, right? And what are people going to do when they look at our tape, and how are they going to try to attack us? And we got to make sure that we've got enough, tools in our toolbox to combat that stuff. And so, as much as it is, I want to get a head start on Georgia. We got to look at ourselves first, and we got to make sure that we're buttoned up in all 3 phases. As much as it is getting ready for our future opponents.
All right, so there's Sark yesterday, and obviously we've got 2 weeks to discuss it. Texas, Georgia.